The world spins too fast, and we find ourselves running to keep up. The anxious mind is a storm, a whirlwind of thoughts, emotions, and inner chaos. You wake up in the morning with your heart pounding, your mind already racing through 1,000 worries before your feet even hit the ground. The pressure to perform, to meet expectations, to be productive, to do more than you can possibly handle, it's overwhelming. It's as if the weight of the world is on your shoulders before you even start your day. As you go through your daily routine, every moment feels like a battle. A feeling of restlessness consumes you, the feeling that you're never quite enough. No matter how much you achieve, it never seems to be enough. There's always a new task, a new goal, a new standard to meet. And yet, the emptiness never seems to fade. The mind remains agitated, anxious, filled with a constant undercurrent of unease. It's not just about the external pressures, it's the internal conflict, the disconnect between who we are and who we think we should be. You're constantly haunted by the thoughts that you're not doing enough, that you're falling behind, that you're failing in some way. Your anxiety grows as you seek the elusive calm and control, but it seems just out of reach. You try to hold on to it, to tame the chaos inside, but the more you try, the more it seems to slip away. It's a constant battle between your desire for peace and the relentless storm that rages in your mind. But then, in the midst of this storm, something strange happens. You begin to notice a flicker of curiosity. What if this storm, this anxiety, isn't a burden after all? What if it's not something to be feared or controlled, but something to be understood, something to be embraced? Could this frantic energy, this feeling of being overwhelmed, actually be the gateway to something greater, something profound? What if, instead of viewing anxiety as a sign of weakness or a flaw, we saw it as a sign of untapped potential? What if this anxiety, this overwhelming flood of thoughts and emotions, is actually the mind's way of trying to push you toward something deeper, something more meaningful? Perhaps it's not the storm we should fear, but what it's revealing about us, the genius, the creativity, the vast potential that lies dormant beneath the surface. It's easy to dismiss anxiety as a sign of personal failure, something that holds us back from achieving greatness. We live in a world that constantly tells us that calm, control, and perfection are the keys to success. But what if these ideas are wrong? What if the very qualities that we often view as weaknesses, chaos, uncertainty, anxiety, are actually the ingredients for greatness? We are conditioned to believe that anxiety is a problem to be solved, a sickness to be cured. The self-help industry thrives on selling solutions to eliminate anxiety. Yoga, meditation, breathing exercises, and mindfulness, all well-meaning attempts to bring us peace. But what if the solution isn't in eradicating anxiety, but in learning how to navigate it, how to use it as a catalyst for growth and transformation? In this moment of reflection, we begin to question everything we've been taught. We wonder if the world we live in has it all wrong. The mainstream narrative tells us that success is found in external accomplishments, money, status, recognition. But what if the key to success lies in a deeper understanding of ourselves, in embracing the discomfort and anxiety that arise within us? What if the genius we seek is already inside, waiting to be unlocked by the very things we try to avoid? To understand this, we need to shift our perspective. Anxiety isn't just an unfortunate side effect of modern life. It's not simply a response to stress or pressure. It's a deeper, more profound force at work within us. It's a signal from our unconscious mind, pointing us toward something greater. And if we learn how to listen to it, how to embrace the discomfort it brings, we might find that it's trying to guide us to a higher level of consciousness, a more profound understanding of who we truly are. But how do we begin to understand this new perspective? How do we learn to navigate the storm of the anxious mind, to see it not as something to be feared, but as something to be harnessed? This is where philosophy and psychology come into play. Thinkers like Carl Jung, Nietzsche, and Viktor Frankl have much to teach us about the nature of anxiety and its relationship to genius. Jung believed that anxiety was a manifestation of the unconscious mind's attempt to integrate the shadow, the parts of ourselves that we repress or deny. This internal conflict, This tension between who we are and who we think we should be creates the anxiety that so many of us feel. But Jung also believed that this conflict was necessary for growth, that it was through the confrontation with our shadow self that we could unlock our true potential. Anxiety, in this sense, becomes the key to self-discovery, to understanding the deeper layers of our psyche. Nietzsche, too, had a unique perspective on anxiety. He argued that life's greatest challenges, the moments of suffering, confusion, and uncertainty, are not obstacles to be avoided, but opportunities for growth and self-overcoming. Anxiety, in Nietzsche's view, is not a sign of weakness, but a call to action, a summons to transcend our limitations and create something new out of the chaos of life. It is only by embracing the tension of our inner conflicts that we can achieve greatness. And then there's Viktor Frankl, who faced unimaginable suffering during his time in the concentration camps. Frankl found that even in the most brutal circumstances, human beings could find meaning and purpose. He argued that anxiety and suffering are inevitable parts of the human experience, but that they can be transformed into a source of strength and resilience. For Frankl, the key to overcoming anxiety was not in avoiding it, but in finding meaning in it, in using it as a stepping stone toward something greater than ourselves. As we reflect on these ideas, we begin to see anxiety in a new light. It is no longer a curse, but a doorway, a gateway to self-discovery, creativity, and genius. In the next sections, we will explore how this shift in perspective can change the way we view ourselves and the world around us. Anxiety, instead of being something to eliminate, becomes something to embrace. It becomes the force that drives us toward greater heights, toward the unlocking of our potential. As we move forward, let us remember that the storm inside us is not to be feared. It is not something that stands in our way. It is the very force that will help us grow. The key to unlocking the secrets of genius lies not in controlling this storm, but in learning to dance with it. The anxious mind, with all its turmoil and unrest, is not the enemy. It is the path to greatness. The journey ahead will not be easy, but it will be worth it. It's time to stop viewing anxiety as a burden and start seeing it as a catalyst for transformation. The mind that is anxious, the mind that is unsettled, is the mind that is alive, searching for meaning, for truth, for purpose. And it is this search that will lead us to the genius that lies within. As we move deeper into understanding anxiety, we begin to unravel its true nature. At first glance, anxiety seems like nothing more than an unpleasant feeling, a source of distress that we try to avoid or eliminate. However, when we peel back the layers, we find something far more complex, something far more potent. Anxiety, in its purest form, is not just an emotion or a reaction to stress. It is a profound psychological experience, one that carries with it the potential for transformation and growth. The first step in understanding the hidden power of anxiety is recognizing that it is not something that simply arises from external circumstances. While it may be triggered by pressures from work, relationships, or the overwhelming demands of modern life, the true source of anxiety lies within the internal world, the subconscious mind. Carl Jung, one of the most influential figures in psychology, argued that anxiety often arises from the tension between the conscious self and the unconscious mind. It is a manifestation of internal conflict, a product of the disconnect between who we are on the surface and the deeper parts of ourselves that we often fail to acknowledge. Jung's concept of the shadow is crucial here. The shadow represents the aspects of ourselves that we repress or deny, traits, desires, and emotions that we find unacceptable or uncomfortable. These aspects are often buried deep within the unconscious, yet they exert a powerful influence over our thoughts, behaviors, and emotional states. Anxiety, in this context, becomes a signal that something within us is out of balance, that the unconscious is attempting to break through into the conscious mind. It is a wake-up call, urging us to confront these hidden parts of ourselves. When we experience anxiety, it is often because the shadow is knocking at the door. The discomfort we feel is not a sign of personal failure, but an invitation to explore the parts of ourselves that we have long ignored or suppressed. This is where the true potential of anxiety lies. By facing our shadows, our fears, insecurities, and unresolved conflicts, we can integrate them into our conscious awareness. In doing so, we not only alleviate the anxiety, but we also unlock a deeper understanding of ourselves and a greater capacity for growth and creativity. But anxiety is not only a psychological phenomenon. It also has a philosophical dimension, one that has been explored by some of the greatest thinkers in history. Friedrich Nietzsche, for instance, had a radically different perspective on anxiety and suffering. Rather than seeing them as obstacles to be overcome, Nietzsche saw them as essential components of the human experience, as the very forces that drive us toward greatness. In his view, the most profound achievements of humanity have come not from avoiding pain or discomfort, but from embracing it. Nietzsche's concept of the will to power speaks directly to this idea. The will to power is not about domination or control over others, but about the drive to transcend limitations, to grow, and to become more than we currently are. Anxiety, in this context, becomes a manifestation of this drive. It is the restless energy of the human spirit, constantly pushing us to reach higher, to strive for something greater than ourselves. It is not a weakness, but a force of creation and transformation. This view of anxiety as a creative force is supported by the work of Viktor Frankl, whose experiences in the concentration camps during World War II led him to develop his theory of logotherapy. Frankl argued that the human capacity to find meaning in even the most extreme suffering is what gives life its depth and significance. Anxiety, in his view, is not a sign of meaninglessness, but a sign that we are searching for meaning. It is a reflection of our desire to transcend the mundane and connect with something deeper, something more profound. Frankl's understanding of anxiety invites us to reconsider its role in our lives. Rather than seeing it as something to be eliminated, we should view it as an opportunity to find meaning. Frankl's own life was a testament to this. Despite enduring unimaginable suffering, he found purpose in his circumstances by helping others find meaning in their lives. In doing so, he transformed his own suffering into a source of strength. Anxiety, for Frankl, was not a burden. It was a source of potential, a catalyst for discovering deeper meaning and purpose. When we look at anxiety through the lenses of Jung, Nietzsche, and Frankl, we begin to see a recurring theme. Anxiety is not the problem. The problem is our relationship with it. We live in a society that constantly urges us to seek comfort, security, and control. We are taught that peace of mind is the ultimate goal, that happiness is found in external success, that the absence of anxiety is a sign of well-being. But these ideas, though widely accepted, are limiting. They suggest that anxiety is something to be avoided, something that stands in the way of our happiness. What we fail to realize is that anxiety is not the enemy. It is a guide, a force that can lead us to greater self-awareness, creativity, and purpose. The external world often fails to recognize this. Society values calmness, productivity, and control. People who are calm and composed are often seen as more competent, more capable. But this external image of success and stability masks a deeper truth. The greatest breakthroughs in human history have often come from moments of intense inner conflict, from the ability to navigate anxiety and use it as a springboard for creativity and change. Take, for example, the great innovators and artists throughout history. Many of them, from Van Gogh to Einstein, experienced profound anxiety, self-doubt, and personal struggles. Yet, rather than being crushed by these feelings, they used them as fuel for their creative work. The anxiety they felt was not a hindrance to their success, but a driving force that propelled them toward their greatest achievements. In this sense, anxiety can be seen as a form of energy, raw, untamed, and powerful, that, when harnessed correctly, can lead to extraordinary results. This is where the duality between the internal and external worlds becomes important. On the one hand, we live in a world that prioritizes external success, wealth, status, and recognition. On the other hand, our inner world craves meaning, authenticity, and self-expression. Anxiety arises when there is a mismatch between these two worlds, when our external reality does not align with our deeper inner desires. The tension between the two creates anxiety, but it also creates the potential for transformation. By recognizing this, we can begin to use our anxiety not as a sign of failure, but as a powerful tool for self-discovery and growth. Anxiety, when understood in this way, is not a sign that something is wrong with us. It is a sign that something is trying to emerge from within, something creative, something profound. It is the spark that ignites the fire of genius, the force that propels us toward our highest potential. In the next section, we will explore how to harness this energy, how to transform anxiety from a source of fear into a source of creative power. But for now, let us reflect on this crucial insight. Anxiety is not our enemy. It is our ally, waiting to help us unlock the genius that lies dormant within us. At this point, we've seen that anxiety is not the enemy. It is not something to be feared or eradicated. In fact, anxiety is an untapped well of potential, a powerful energy that, when properly understood, can lead us toward personal growth, creative breakthroughs, and a deeper connection with our true selves. But the crucial question remains: how do we transform this raw energy into something constructive? How do we move from being overwhelmed by anxiety to harnessing it as a force for genius? The answer lies in a shift of perspective, a change in how we relate to our anxiety. For too long, we've been taught to suppress or avoid anxiety. We've been conditioned to see it as a flaw, a weakness that needs to be fixed. This mindset, however, only reinforces the cycle of fear and avoidance. We panic when anxiety arises, and in doing so, we inadvertently reinforce its power over us. But what if we stop trying to escape it? What if, instead of fighting our anxiety, we chose to embrace it, to listen to it, and to use it as a guide toward greater self-awareness? One of the first steps in transforming anxiety into a source of genius is learning how to be present with it, to experience it fully without judgment. Anxiety, at its core, is a signal, a message from our unconscious mind, alerting us to something that requires our attention. When we resist this message, we block the flow of energy that could lead to insight and transformation. But when we allow ourselves to feel the anxiety without trying to control or avoid it, we create space for understanding. This shift from resistance to acceptance is the beginning of our transformation. Consider, for example, the process of creative work. Many artists, writers, and innovators experience intense anxiety, particularly when they are on the cusp of a breakthrough. The pressure to create something meaningful, to push past the limitations of their current abilities, can be overwhelming. Yet, rather than seeing this anxiety as a sign of inadequacy, these creators learn to work with it. They understand that anxiety is not an obstacle to creativity. It is a natural part of the creative process. The tension and discomfort that accompany anxiety are often the very forces that drive innovation, forcing the creator to think in new ways, to challenge established boundaries, and to push beyond their current understanding of the world. The genius of these individuals lies not in their ability to eliminate anxiety, but in their capacity to transform it into a force for creation. They do this by reframing their relationship with anxiety. Instead of viewing it as a problem to solve, they see it as a tool to be used. They understand that anxiety signals growth, a need for change, and an opportunity to break free from old patterns. In this way, anxiety becomes the spark that ignites the fire of creative expression, the fuel that propels us toward innovation and discovery. But how do we move from theory to practice? How do we begin to transform our own anxiety into genius? The first step is to redefine our relationship with discomfort. We must stop seeing discomfort as a sign that something is wrong, and instead begin to see it as a necessary part of the creative and transformative process. Discomfort is the birthplace of growth. Every time we push past our fears, challenge our assumptions, or venture into the unknown, we experience anxiety. But it is in these moments of discomfort that we stretch our limits, break free from old patterns, and tap into the deeper levels of our potential. Consider a moment of intense fear or anxiety, perhaps before giving a presentation, starting a new project, or facing a difficult conversation. In these moments, we often feel paralyzed, as though we are incapable of moving forward. But if we can train ourselves to stay present, to breathe through the discomfort, we will find that the anxiety loses its grip on us. Instead of running from it, we lean into it, allowing it to fuel us rather than hinder us. The more we practice this, the more we begin to recognize that anxiety is not a signal of failure, but a sign that we are on the edge of something new, something transformative. At this point, the shift is not only psychological, but also philosophical. We begin to realize that anxiety is not a force to be conquered, but a force to be integrated. This is where the teachings of Alan Watts come into play. Watts often spoke about the importance of surrender, of letting go of the need to control everything, and allowing life to unfold in its natural rhythm. The more we try to control our anxiety, the more it controls us. The more we resist it, the stronger it becomes. But when we surrender to it, when we stop trying to fight the storm and simply allow it to pass through us, we find that anxiety loses its power. We stop being slaves to our fear and begin to use it as a stepping stone toward greater freedom. The transformation from anxiety to genius is not a one-time event. It is a process, a continual practice of self-awareness and self-acceptance. Every time we encounter anxiety, we have the opportunity to choose how we respond. Will we retreat into fear, or will we step into the unknown, embracing the discomfort as a necessary part of the journey? As we learn to dance with our anxiety, we begin to access the deeper layers of our creativity and potential. It is also important to recognize that this transformation is not instantaneous. It requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to face the parts of ourselves that we often try to avoid. But with time, we begin to develop a new relationship with anxiety. It no longer controls us, but becomes an ally, guiding us toward greater self-understanding and creative expression. We begin to trust in the process, knowing that anxiety is not a sign of weakness, but a sign that we are alive, growing, and evolving. Perhaps the most profound shift occurs when we realize that our anxiety is not something we need to hide or suppress, but something we can share with others. In the act of vulnerability, we connect more deeply with those around us, and we find that we are not alone in our struggles. Everyone experiences anxiety in one form or another. And when we open ourselves to others, we create a space for collective growth and healing. Anxiety, in this sense, becomes a shared human experience, a reminder that we are all in this together, striving for meaning, purpose, and understanding. The genius that we seek does not lie in perfection or control, but in the willingness to embrace the messiness of life, the chaos, the uncertainty, and the anxiety. When we stop running from these forces and begin to integrate them into our lives, we unlock the creative potential that has always been within us. We learn to flow with the rhythms of life, to dance with the storm, rather than fighting against it. And in doing so, we begin to discover the genius that lies at the heart of our anxiety. This transformation is not just about finding creative success. It is about rediscovering who we are at our core. It is about reclaiming our power, our sense of purpose, and our capacity for greatness. Anxiety is not the thing that stands in the way of our genius. It is the very thing that propels us toward it. By learning to embrace and transform our anxiety, we move closer to the person we are meant to become.